Let's talk about why white women tone police black women and why they don't stand up against racism. So growing up, obviously, as a white woman, I was expected to be nice, sweet, and happy. My brothers could be angry, aggressive, hurt me, punch my head. They did all of that. But I was not allowed to stand up for myself. I had to understand the white men. When I confronted my mom and said, my brothers just beat my head, she said, oh, he must have been having a bad day. Why don't you go and see if he's okay? So white women are socialized to put white men first and to deny their own experience and be sweet and nice to get loved. If I wanted to be loved and accepted by my family, I had to silence myself and ignore and abandon all that I felt. I was not prepared to do this. I have no contact with my family. If I confronted the racism I saw in the men around me, I was insulted, mocked, and shamed for being somebody who loved black people. I was shocked as a child that I would be rejected for saying, why do you think that's okay? Would you like to be spoken to like that? How come you think that you can speak about people like that? Do you not realize that this is emotional abuse that you're doing? Why do you think it's okay to be racist? At each point, I was told to be quiet, that I'm ruining the day, that I should just be happy and focus and be grateful. Now, I am probably autistic, so I'm direct, and I focus on the truth and fairness. And for me, racism is wrong and it's unfair, and I will always stand up for it. And it will mean, and has meant, a lot of rejection for doing this, and I will continue to do that. But for a lot of white women, they haven't had the capacity or the skills to be able to go, I'm going to make a stand. What making a stand means is they will be isolated, rejected, abused, put down, controlled, made wrong, and they're too scared to do this. So they repeat what has been done to them, where they are tone policed and made wrong for not just being happy, sweet, and nice. We need to make a stand against the socialization that silences and represses us. So please, find your voice. Stand up for yourself, stand up for others, stand up against racism and sexism. Together we rise.
We are all racist. Every single one of us who look like me, who are watching this video, we are racist. And let me explain what I mean by that, because if you would have told me that a few years ago, I would have come out of my corner swinging saying, no way, I am not. I have worked in the criminal justice system for decades, and I've seen the systemic racism there and fought against it. I have biracial children, and I have seen the way the world looks at my children who are of a minority race versus my children who look like me. And I would have said, no way. But here is the thing. The more I learn, the more I realize just how much I don't know. Because there are two types of racism. There's the kind of racism that comes from the hate in your heart, and I don't have that. I never have, and I suspect very many of you don't have it either. But there is another kind of racism that comes from ignorance, and that abounds in my life. Even me, who thought that I knew a lot about seeing systemic racism. But here's what I've learned. The more I learn, the more I realize how unintentionally racist I have been in so many things. And it is on us now, white people, to educate ourselves. We're never going to fully grasp what it means to live in a world where you are the minority and where the system has been set up for hundreds and hundreds of years to benefit people who look like me and to oppress people who look like my children. But we have got to educate ourselves. I'm going to start listing several books and documentaries that I've been watching to educate myself. And I hope any of you who really want this world to be a better place, we have got to start with the foundation that all men and women are created equal. And we have got to set new rules for how we move in this society if we're going to have that. I need to apologize to the friends, the clients, the people I interacted with for so many years, because I thought I wasn't racist, and I'm not, as far as the part that comes out of hate. But the part that is born from ignorance, I'm sorry. I should have done better, and I am learning. For those of you who are watching this who are minorities, please put your advice in the comments. Books, documentaries, movies, or just your life experiences. I want to learn, and I want to help others learn, because I don't want you or your children or my children to live in a world that is designed to fail them. Okay, so let's start this series of educating ourselves in order to make this world a better place. Go love your neighbor.
White people are lacking a solid grasp on what white privilege is. White privilege is literally just the absence of dealing with racism in every direction. Basically, an entire system built on racism that every white person is taking part in upholding unknowingly, or oftentimes unknowingly. So you have the people that are being oppressed the most, okay? The Black people, due to this country's history of slavery, due to this country's history of segregation, due to this country's history of not undoing the past. We didn't do anything to dismantle this country's racism that this country was built upon. White people just keep reproducing kids that are upholding racism because we're not teaching them how to be anti-racist. We're not teaching them that Black people are experiencing racism consistently in their everyday life. If you have the majority of Black people racism, yes, it's a major problem. We need to find a solution. And they're coming to white people and they're saying this, and the white people who are doing the oppressing, they're laughing at them. They're saying, you have the victim mentality. We're not going to help you. We're going to laugh at you because you're playing victim. But it's the majority of Black people saying that this is a problem, saying this is their experience, and saying that racism is a major issue that they have to deal with. That is embedded into our society. When you come to the people doing the oppressing, those are the people that have the power to make change. If you laugh at the victim, if you say, haha, you're not a victim, that's just your mentality, where is the progress? I don't know if people are familiar with narcissistic terms, but let's look at it as narcissism, okay? Racism is narcissism. Black people
There is no amount of how you are literally raised. There is no amount of how you are raised that will make you see racism and not call it what it is. It's as simple as ABCD. Let's leave it at there first. There is no amount of how you are raised that you don't see bad thing and you cannot call it bad. Let's call a spade a spade. A lot of these white folks are now realizing because a lot of people are no longer giving them that opportunity or that space that they were literally looking for. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And these people have literally seen racism as something that they can use to eat. It's just more like if like food to them. So that is why whenever it is happening, a lot of them tend to see it or tend to throw blind eyes to it. Do you get my point? But anyways, I'll just let the other clips I have roll out for you guys before I say whatsoever I want to say at the end of this video. Welcome to the channel. My name is Sonia. Subscribe, like, comment, share. Credit to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. And I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you liking, commenting, sharing, dropping super thanks. Also joining my membership. I do not take you guys for granted. You guys are absolutely the best. And yes, with that being said, let's dive right into this video. I'll be back with commentaries. Let's go watch, guys.
Although it may be shocking, a lot of racists genuinely believe they are good people, and here are the top 5 ways they try to convince themselves it's true. Number 1, when they're called out, instead of taking accountability for their actions, they simply blame the person who accused them. They didn't do anything wrong. In fact, the other people are being sensitive and they are a good person, so therefore they can't possibly say anything racist. Number 2, by leaning heavily into cognitive dissonance. You don't know, cognitive dissonance is when you have 2 conflicting beliefs and that creates discomfort in someone. So they have to either change one of their 2 beliefs that they can coexist without the person feeling overwhelmed. So instead of being like, oh, I am racist, I should stop being racist, they're like, oh, actually, I am a good person and what I said wasn't racist, so that they can balance it out. Number 3, by leaning on their racist friends for validation. I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. Number 4, by blaming woke culture as a whole for the reason that they have been called out, because they couldn't possibly do anything wrong. It must be a societal problem. And number 5, by playing into the reverse racism myth. Not only am I not racist, but actually you are being racist to me as a white person, because that is the real problem in society. Bye.
Most white folks don't have the stomach to say the truth out loud about race. So I'm going to do it for you. Racism ain't a touchy subject if you're not fucking racist. If the truth makes you feel attacked, you're probably protecting a fucking lie. You wouldn't trade places with a black man for $1 million, and you know exactly why. Our fucking racism. If you're staying neutral while a man gets done wrong, you're just helping the fucking bully. Saying you don't see color just means you're too scared to see the fucking truth. If you gotta keep a man on his knees just to feel tall, you're the weakest man in the whole goddamn room. Bragging about a win in a rigged race don't make you a winner. That just makes you a fucking cheater. They taught you to hate your neighbor so you wouldn't notice they're picking your fucking pockets. That's a goddamn truth right there. Your comfort is a bill that someone else is paying with their fucking life. This ain't casual racism. It's fucking real. White supremacy is sinking the whole damn boat just to watch your neighbor go under while you drown with them, motherfucker. White supremacy is burning your own goddamn house to the fucking ground just to make sure your neighbor stays cold. As white people, we have a choice to make. We can find our soul or we can keep the lie, but we'll never have both. Ever.
This is for the white woman watching this page. I'm curious, do you stand up for people of color, especially when they are the only person of color in the room? There are many times that I have been in a room where there's one person of color and they're describing an incident that is definitely racist and they are silenced. So I want to share with you a few microaggressions that when a black person is describing their situation, that you can identify and call it out. Research has shown that if somebody names it straight away as racism, That validation actually creates a sense of peace and empathy, and calms the nervous system of the Black person because they feel like their experience has been recognized. Types of microaggressions you might see is that when the Black person is speaking, they are interrupted, they are silenced, they're made wrong for what they're sharing, even though they are right. They are smiled at in a bypassing way and then treated like they know nothing, or they're not deserving, or they're not worthy. That's called a double bind, where a mixed message where somebody is smiling but their behavior is not aligned with it. You may see evidence of contempt. For example, somebody might treat them with sarcasm, eye rolling, shrugs, sighs, as though here we go again. They may be treated differently to the white people around them. For instance, somebody might listen to the white people and not even ask the Black person what they think. When you stand up to this and say, this is weird because right now what I'm seeing are microaggressions that I perceive as racist. What that does is let every white person know that their behavior that is racist is unacceptable, not welcome, and it's being rooted out. And all of us who are white have been grown up in a system that has systemic racism, where education, economics, housing, medicine, healthcare are frequently racist. And unless we are pointing it out and acknowledging it, it will perpetuate. We need to be a voice for those who are not heard and who are treated badly.
Okay, I truly believe that the number one reason why white people avoid having the conversation about race that we have to have as a nation, if we're going to survive, is because it makes us feel uncomfortable. But on the other hand, Trump is making life pretty uncomfortable for all of us, and it's only going to get worse. So either way, we're going to have some discomfort, and we can do it God's way, and we can squarely face the darkest chapters of our nation's history and the darkness that lurks in plain sight right now in the present. Or we can continue to live in denial and run from the uncomfortable truths and the uncomfortable conversations. But you can't run from God, and you can't run from justice. Because until there is justice in this nation, there will be no peace. So we're continuing to spread the word about our documentary, because this is literally our heartbeat, to foster those uncomfortable conversations, because this is the only pathway to healing and to change into a better America where everyone can benefit from the prosperity of this beautiful land.
Why do so many white people get super defensive when Black people talk about racism? Have you ever noticed that oftentimes when a Black person is talking about racism in the presence of white people, a lot of times the white people will get so annoyed, frustrated, angry, and defensive. And it's like, it's more upsetting to them to hear a Black person talk about being the target of anti-Black racism than it is the fact that the Black person is actually still experiencing racism in the year 2024. So it's kind of weird. It's like the racism doesn't really make them angry. It's the fact that we're talking about it that makes them upset. So maybe you've seen some of this type of behavior come up when a Black person is speaking about anti-Black racism, systemic racism, or white supremacy culture. And if you have, which more than likely you have, it's because of one reason. Because defensiveness is another characteristic of white supremacy culture. So welcome back to my new video series called It's Time You Learned About White Supremacy Culture. Defensiveness is just another characteristic of white supremacy culture. We've already talked about claiming a right to comfort. We've talked about paternalism. We've talked about there only being one right way according to white supremacy culture. We've covered a lot so far in this series, so if you've missed any of my previous videos, make sure you go back and watch them. But today, I want to highlight why it's so ridiculous that so many white people get defensive when black people speak up and speak out against anti-black racism. Now, you may have seen some conversations go a little something like this. I noticed that you were a little defensive earlier when I brought up the fact that that statement that you made was really rooted in white supremacy and anti-black racism. Why did you get so defensive? How dare you say that about me? I'm not racist. I'm a good person. I had good intentions. I didn't even mean it that way. How dare you call me racist? I'm not racist. I'm a good person. I don't say racial slurs. I'm not a part of the KKK. I don't hate black people. I have black friends. You're my black friend. So why would you say that about me? I'm not racist. You know I'm a good person. Come on. I have a Black Lives Matter flag up in my yard. I put up a black square on Instagram back in 2020. Come on. I say Black Lives Matter every day. Give me a break. I'm a good person. I could never be racist. I wasn't attacking your character at all. I was just making you aware that what you said was rooted in white supremacy and anti-black racism. See, racism, part of it is just a mindset. It's a belief system, and you can unlearn any belief system or any mindset. You can always shift it. So I'm bringing it to your attention so that you can make that shift and know better and do better and stop causing harm. Now, if you are someone who wants to also know better and do better and learn about how you can unlearn white supremacist ideologies and unlearn anti-black racism that you may have been taught or you may have been influenced by in our society or through your family, I want to invite you to join me for my live online masterclass entitled 7 Ways to Fight Against White Supremacy in the Anti-DEI Era. Join me for this live masterclass. It's happening Wednesday, April 17th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There will be a replay available if you can't join me live, but you have to register in advance to get access to the replay. So go to that link on my profile right now and register today. It's time everybody unlearn white supremacy culture. I'll see you in class. Don't get defensive and someone calls you out on racism. Just focus on unlearning. It's not an attack on your character. It's an invitation to do better, to know better, to learn more, to do better. Don't take it personally. Focus your energy on doing better instead of being defensive.
Do you ever see something racist happen in public and nobody says anything? And you wonder, why don't the white people ever say anything? It's this idea of white solidarity. We are white before we are women, before we are friends, co-workers, allies, and white people do not talk about race. We're the ones that benefit from racial inequities, from racial injustice. So we have no reason to draw attention to it. It's kind of like Fight Club. The first rule of being white is you don't talk about being white. But if you're one of the white people who see racism, see microaggressions, and want to speak out, but feel that pressure of white solidarity, I've got good news and bad news for you. We'll start with the bad news. You're going to lose friends. You're going to lose community. I have seen this firsthand in my life. I have been posting online about racism in the Deep South, where I'm from, and I have lost friends. I have been exiled from certain communities. I hear people talking shit about me behind my back. I know family members are mad about what I'm doing. But here's the good news. If being white and being quiet is more important to them than what is right and just in the world, those are not the people you want in your community, in your circles anyway. I have found community on here. I have found wonderful people that support what I'm doing and support this movement, both white, black, and every other color. I know that at the end of the day, if my circle gets smaller in some ways, it will expand in others. I can look at myself in the mirror and know that what I'm doing is helping make this country a better place, make this world a better place. And I can have a clean conscience that I know that I have chosen to be the better person instead of being safe in my little white racist bubble. So if you want to speak out, if you are seeing these things and it is bothering you and stirring something in your soul, just know that when your circle starts to shrink, there are ways to find community and find your people.
You want to know what racism looks like in the UK? It's not always someone yelling racial slurs in the street. It's quieter, more polite, but more dangerous. I'll give you a few examples of how deep it really goes. The Windrush scandal. Black British citizens legally here 4 decades, detained, denied healthcare and deported by our government, their government. It wasn't a mistake, it was policy. Stop and search. Black people are 9 times more likely to be stopped and searched in England and Wales. It's not about crime, it's about treating them like they're a threat. School exclusion. Global majority children are more likely to be punished harshly, excluded, and treated like a problem and not given support for additional needs, becoming a pipeline from school to prison. Immigration policy. The hostile environment policy was designed to make life unbearable for immigrants, especially those from global majority backgrounds. Racial control designed as law. Maternal health care. Black women are still 4 times more likely to die during childbirth. It's not biology, it's systemic neglect. That's just a few examples of embedded racism in the UK, often denied and protected by silence. So when I'm saying white people need to be accountable, it's not about blame. It's about being responsible, because benefiting from a system that causes harm and not saying anything is being complicit. And staying silent just keeps it standing. So if you're ready to learn more and unlearn your social conditioning, hit the link in my bio. I'm the anti-racist mum and I teach white people how to do better.
People don't think they're racist because white people don't understand racism fundamentally. White people think that to be racist, you have to be out hate criming. You have to explicitly be saying you don't like XYZ minority group. You have to be saying you think white people are better. And this level of binary thinking is extremely comfortable for white people because most white people aren't out hate criming. Most racist people aren't out hate criming or explicitly saying they hate minority groups. It's a little bit more subtle for most racist people. Obviously, there are some people who do say that, but that is the exception, not the rule. And this goes for both sides of the aisle. Like during the election, people kept saying, not everyone who voted for him is racist, but all the racist people did vote for him. Completely incorrect. Reverse that. Everyone who voted for him is racist. You cannot vote for that without being racist. However, not all racist people voted for him. And that is harmful to say because that perpetuates this narrative of like, or this trope of, I have a black friend, I can't be racist. I voted for Kamala Harris, I can't be racist. I vote for the people who support the minorities. I'm obviously not racist and I don't need to do any further work to prove that. Sophia Coppola is obviously conservative and conservative racism is a little bit more explicit, but they don't think it's wrong and they don't think they're racist because they know that racism is a bad word. That's bad. And racism is wrong. So I'm not racist. I don't hate minority groups. I just don't think that inequality is an issue. I just don't think it's wrong. I just don't think microaggressions exist, right? That's not racist. That's just how they frame their world, and that's comfortable for them. And if there's anything white people cannot give up, it's comfort. Do not make white people uncomfortable. Oh my God. Oh my God. And that goes for the left too. I personally have to work every single day to deconstruct systemic racism within myself, within the people around me, within the world that I exist in the context, right? And I have to be constantly thinking about that because racism is so deeply embedded in our society, in our psyches. But a lot of white people on the left don't feel the need to do that because they're doing their part. They're not voting for racism, so they're not racist. If they don't learn about microaggressions, then they don't have to acknowledge that they exist and they don't have to call themselves or their friends out for doing them, right? If they call people out for saying the M-word, if they go, hey, don't say that, that's doing their part. It would be really uncomfortable for them to have to learn about the way that white supremacy exists in our society. And they don't want to be uncomfortable. Don't make them uncomfortable. Don't fight white supremacy. They're going to hate it. And this isn't an excuse at all, but this binary view of racism isn't helpful and it's not productive to think that like everyone who's racist knows it and says like, I hate minorities. It almost views it in the same lens that they view it. Racism is never okay on any level, but it isn't a binary thing. It's not lacking in nuance. Like, there is a lot of nuance. There's no justification, but there are different types of racists. There are different understandings of racism, and to not acknowledge that does us all a disservice.
And the reason why a lot of white people are still not up in arms is because their racism supersedes their ability to think critically and think logically. Their racism supersedes all of that. They're forgetting that white versus color is a subset, a branch of rich versus poor. And unfortunately, a lot of us are poor. A lot of us are poor. There's not many rich. Y'all are at the bottom with the rest of us. And until you guys recognize that the fight is not about getting immigrants out of America, that's not what the fight is right now. Until y'all recognize that, until y'all do the shadow work and recognize that, your racism is always going to supersede your ability to be a smart, logical human being. It's always going to supersede your ability to being intelligent.
Sometimes in my comments, people say, if I just stopped talking about racism, it would go away. If only. But that's not how any of this works. Look, if silence fixed racism, we'd be living in a post-racial paradise right now. The reason so many of us, especially white folks, don't know how to deal with racism is because we don't talk about it. We don't know how to talk about it. We don't do it in schools, not in church, not at dinner parties, not even at our home dinner tables with our kids. What we did learn was how to change the subject, how to flinch when someone brought it up, how to get real uncomfortable real fast, and then blame that discomfort on the person who brought it up. But racism doesn't disappear just because you pretend it's impolite to mention it. It thrives in silence. It festers when it's ignored. Talking about it is not the problem. Talking about it is the first step toward understanding it and undoing it. And that's what I'm trying to do here. So nope, I'm not going to stop talking about it. And if that makes you squirm a little, maybe you need to sit with that a little bit and figure out what that's trying to tell you. One share or comment or save shows that you care about setting the record straight and that you don't want to just sweep it under the rug. Follow me for more truth telling, and if you're so motivated, please consider supporting my work at coffee.com/Kelly Snyder. Get curious.
Why aren't white people openly racist? Why do they try to hide it with these weird innuendos that they think are subtle? It's because a part of them knows that racism is not currently in fashion. However, the more that Trump continues to spout racist nonsense and be our president, the more it becomes in fashion, aka socially acceptable. That is why I have seen more blatant acts of racism in the last, say, year than I have ever in my life, as well as online, and hate crimes are going up across the nation. Explicit racism is being modeled by people in our government right now, and it's also being modeled by popular social media influencers and content creators. However, it's still not fully socially acceptable to be openly racist and say it with your chest, so that is why they continue to try to hide it. And if there's one thing that white people hate, it's confrontation, it's being called out. So that is why when they are being racist, they would prefer to do so secretly so that they maintain plausible deniability instead of being called out, because at that point that is damaging to their reputation. It's about self-preservation for white people. That is why they're openly racist.
Anyways, welcome back, guys, and I hope you guys literally enjoyed every single clip I was able to roll out for you guys. So before I go into bringing out some of the reasons why I feel a lot of these women or a lot of these white people don't even want to stand up against racism, even when they see that every single thing they are doing is bad, even when they know that what they are doing is wrong, they literally do not stand up to them. I'm going to be saying that, but let me say this. No matter how you are raised, you will not tell me that you don't know what is bad and good. You don't know what is evil. You don't know what is demonic, right? So you know the right from the wrong, you know the good from the bad. So it is as simple as possible for you now that you now understand what racism is all about as a white person, to be able to sit your kids, to be able to sit your niece, to be able to educate the audience, the public, and of which I really so much appreciate a lot some of these white folks, some of them, some of the few percentage of them that are taking out their time to talk about racism, especially that girl I actually start clip, is it Kali or something like should then be taking her time to stand up against racism, racial profiling, and so on and so forth. Yeah, kudos to her. So she's really trying, but some of them will literally still see and just tag it as okay because of their brought up or how things actually went out for them now coming right now to address or adjust what this racism all about is more like they are committing a crime or there is something different about it. See, what is bad, and racism is one of the things that have kept a lot of them to the same condition. And I feel like some of the reasons why these people decide to just keep quiet or decide not to even say anything sometimes is one, the fear of social consequences, where speaking against racism can lead to conflicts with their family, friends, co-workers, or community. And of which I've literally seen a white girl that lamented that she's actually leaving her family because her family is too racist. Her family love to talk bad, evil about black people, and anytime she talk about this, anytime she just want to address them on the racist thing that they are literally talking about, it becomes a problem for her. So she's literally even scared of her own family right now, because her father even had to make a comment one day that she always loved to support black people. Maybe one day something is going to happen like that, and the girl just decided to leave. A white lady, I did a video and I stitched her video here and I uploaded it here. So one of the reasons why a lot of them don't just want to talk, they don't want to provoke their family and friends. They don't want to provoke their co-workers. They just want to keep knowing fully well that this thing is wrong. They just want to keep that their conversation going. They just want to keep that their family lineage going, and of which it's actually not making sense. It is good that you speak against what is evil. What is bad. What is evil is evil. There's nothing you can do about it. So speak out for it. And the second one I feel like is lack of awareness, where some people may not recognize racism, okay, when they have not personally experienced it or have not learned about its history and present day form. I feel like a lot of them has learned the history, but a lot of them just feel like since it's not happening to them, why do they need to bother themselves? Why do they need to talk about it since it's literally affecting black people? Do you get? Now that thing is political or ideological difference, where people disagree about what racism is and how whispered it is and what should be done about it. Another reason why I think is desire to avoid conflict, where some prefer to stay out of controversial issues even when they disagree with racism. A lot of them that I know is they even support racism so badly. They support racism with their full chest. So even when they're trying to just stay out, just because it has, if see, once something happened to you and you understand what has really happened to you, there is no way you're literally not going to talk about it. Another one I have is belief from existing system, where some individuals may feel they believe from the status quo and may be less motivated to talk about it or to challenge it. Another one is belief that others should lead, where some think it is more appropriate to support behind the scene rather than takes a public role. So in all, whether you like it or not, racism is a bad thing. And I'm happy that we have some of them that are actually here coming out to speak out. Like look at the first one that talked about her brought up and the rest of that, how her brought up was literally messed up for her and so on and so forth. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comment section. Credit to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you liking, commenting, sharing, dropping super thanks, and also joining my membership. I do not take you guys for granted. You guys are absolutely the best. And yes, with that being said, with no further ado, I do like I always say in my videos, I'm going to be saying bye, and I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye guys. I love you guys. Mwah.